over Kisumu town. But what happened is that after holding very peaceful demonstrations the early part of the morning, and of course they went all the way to Nyamasaria, pockets of youths did manage to converge, not just here, but in various places here in CBD, of course, causing mayhem. That didn't go down well, not only with the security forces, but of course also with the county leadership, but more importantly also with the business community that has been complaining about the destruction and the looting that actually happened last week. This is not the first time that Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o has actually come in strongly to suspend demonstrations. Remember, just after the 2017 General Poll, Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o indeed banned demonstrations in and within Kisumu CBD, and he did say that at that point in time, of course, burning of tires or lighting bonfires along the roads was causing more damage than that the county can actually take. And at that point in time, he said that his core mandate was actually to ensure that he puts Kisumu on the map as one peaceful place and where investors can actually come to invest. He did manage to a greater level where demonstrators didn't come to town. So we'll be watching closely tomorrow to see if indeed the demonstrators will heed this call or what exactly will be happening tomorrow. Remember, we also did manage to talk to the chair of the National Chambers of Commerce in this region, Israel Agina, and he expressed concern over the total or what will be lost in terms of when people are actually going to the streets and shops are closing. At the time we spoke to him, he actually estimated that the losses will be running into hundreds of millions. So, of course, those puts into the entire picture of exactly why Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o has actually come out strongly to say to suspend these demonstrations. He is not the only governor who actually is ensuring that demonstrations are not happening. Kisii County Governor Simba Arati said categorically during the presidential visit in that county in Nyamira that there'll be no demonstrations in Kisii town. We have not seen demonstration in that town. Nyamira County Governor also did indicate that they will not be engaging in anti-government protest in that particular town. There'll be no demonstration. We have also seen demonstrations, small bits of demonstrations in Kakamega and in Busia County and parts of Siaya, but not to the scale that has actually been witnessed here in Kisumu County and in Nairobi. Probably the effects of the demonstrations, the looting that happened in the first week of the demonstrations, the destruction of property, and of course the whole lot of confusion that actually occurred might have advised Professor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o to suspend this demonstration. Of course, as I said, we'll be keeping a keen eye on what will be happening tomorrow, and no doubt our viewers and listeners will get first-hand information from Kisumu on what will have transpired tomorrow. Back to you, Ben, to enjoy.
Thank you so much, Achola Simon, live from Kisumu, where Governor Peter Anyang' Nyong'o has suspended Thursday demos and said that until further notice, but those who would like to participate are free to join those who will be demonstrating here in the capital, Nairobi. In other news, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is calling on the Independent Policing Oversight Authority to investigate the shooting and killing of 3 people during protest in Kisumu County. KNCHR is also calling on the police to uphold and respect the provisions of Article 37 of the Constitution, even as it challenges the opposition to ensure the demonstrations are peaceful.
We have confirmed reports so far of 3 deaths. 2 in Kisumu town, 1 in Maseno. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is investigating other reported incidences of deaths. Every life is sacrosanct, and no person should lose his or her life during such incidences. We, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights, call upon the National Police Service to ensure security and protection of all persons during demonstrations, and to restrain from using live bullets. We wish to clarify that as at now, we have no evidence that police have used live bullets. Neither do we have confirmed information as to the persons responsible for the shootings.
To our top story, where leaders have mourned the late Banisa Member of Parliament, Kulo Maalim Hassan, as a dedicated public servant who pursued peace in Mandera and beyond. Kulo, who was serving his second term, died this morning at the Nairobi hospital, where he had been admitted for treatment after being hit by a motorcycle on Saturday. Kulo will be buried this afternoon in accordance with Islamic rites.
The late Banisa Member of Parliament Maalim Kulo Hassan is said to have been hit by a motorbike near the Al Huda Mosque in South B in Nairobi on Saturday and was rushed to the Aga Khan hospital for treatment. The MP succumbed to the injuries Wednesday morning. President William Ruto, in mourning the late legislator, described him as a dedicated public servant and a passionate advocate for the people and interests of Mandera County as a whole. National Assembly Speaker Moses Wetangula, while breaking the news to his colleagues, described the second-term MP as a dedicated legislator both in the House and the committees. Until his demise, Maalim served as a member of the National Assembly Standing Committee on Trade, Investments and Cooperatives, as well as the Public Accounts Committee. A trained teacher by profession, Kulo will be buried this afternoon in accordance with Islamic rites. John Jacob Curia, Lunchtime News.
May his soul rest in peace. Elsewhere, Embu residents are experiencing water supply disruptions due to several acts of water system vandalism. Embu Water and Sanitation Company is reporting the theft of water meters and sewer line covers have become rampant in the region and have resulted in losses for the company. The company officials are calling on the residents to report any suspected perpetrators so they can bring them to justice.
Imekuwa ni hasara kubwa sana kwa kampuni yetu. Kwanza mambo ya mita imeleta uhusiano mbaya wa sisi na customers wetu, kwa sababu customer mita yake ikibiwa kule nyumbani ndiye anapaswa alipe. So tumeona ni jambo la kuhuzunisha kuona kwamba wezi wameingia maeneo mingi sana. Walianza mambo ya Ndaras, wakaenda Majengo, sasa wako Mburuvari. Tumeshirikiana na security concerns na wamesema tutusaidia. Na pia kuna watu ambao wako huko masinani ambao tumepangana na wao. Kwa hivyo yule mtu atapatikana, sheria ni ile ile tu, utafungiwa, kwa sababu hiyo ni wizi wa kawaida. Wanavunja mbaya, wanaharibu concrete, hiyo concrete inaingia kwa line zetu za ziwa, inakuwa ni blockage. Sasa town imekuwa ni siwa kila bahari kwa sababu yao hawezi. Sasa tumetangaza hali ya hatari na nakuambia ule mtu ambaye ananjua mtu ambaye akona tabia kama hizo apige namba yetu.
In other news, the International Commission of Jurists has warned that events witnessed in the country on the 20th and 27th of March 2023 are clawing back constitutional gains. ICJ Kenya Section Chairperson Protasa Ende cited pockets of violence that saw the loss of lives and wanton destruction of private property.
Should not be allowed to take root. Our Constitution's rule of law must remain supreme as the avenue to resolve our differences.
ICJ Kenya is also alarmed by the statements of Professor Kithure Kindiki, Cabinet Secretary to the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination, that he would present to Parliament proposals to alter the Public Order Management Act, many of which are unlawful. We posit that any changes to legal and policy frameworks that react to the protests in public order management must not overreach the letter and spirit of the Constitution, which legitimizes peaceful assembly and does not create barriers to the realization of the right.
People that have the money to buy new iron sheets, have money to buy timber, and within whatever period, less than 24 hours, they have put up structures. That says a lot about what needs to be done, and it must be done urgently, or else we will be back on the same path we were 15 years ago.
In other news, President William Ruto is scheduled to open the 3rd regional symposium on greening judiciaries in Africa on Monday, the 3rd of April. The symposium will also be attended by about 26 Chief Justices across Africa under the auspice of Africa Judicial Education Network on Environment Law, aims at strengthening the judiciary in dealing with climate change and provide policy directions in enhancing environmental justice.
The capital, Nairobi, will be host to the 3rd Regional Symposium on Greening Judiciaries in Africa for 3 days under the theme Strengthening the Role of Judiciaries in Addressing Climate Change in Africa. The event that is scheduled to be officially opened by President William Ruto will evaluate the progress made in integrating environmental matters in judicial education, emerging trends, and approaches to climate change adjudication.
We have experts in matters of environment and climate change. We have judges who have rendered decisions following disputes revolving around those 3 thematic areas, sharing with us their experience, and therefore we are going to have a conversation.
Once the 2 divisions are up and running, and we are going to launch the 2 divisions in June, once we come up with party directions, which we want to discuss as judges tomorrow and on Friday, we will be able to inform you of those mechanisms that we've put in place to encourage the Kenyans to file environmental cases.
The symposium brings 26 Chief Justices. Johannesburg, South Africa hosted the first conference in 2017, followed by Maputo, Mozambique in 2018.
We've been engaging with the Council of Governors as a collective and individual county governments. And the Chief Justice delivered a keynote speech there on environmental adjudication. And so from that conference, there was a commitment by government to invest in a tree growing fund to make sure that we have at least 30% tree cover by 2050 in Kenya.
This will be under the Africa Judicial Education Network on Environment Law, AJNEL. Seraphin Nairobi for Lunchtime News.
Moving on, a section of church leaders has called on the government and the opposition to engage in meaningful talks to end the current political impasse in the country. According to clergy, the Azimio la Umoja coalition demonstrations are robbing Kenyans of their lives, time and livelihood. The church leaders are also calling on the youth to keep away from the weekly demonstrations and instead engage in economic activities that will benefit their lives.
As spiritual leaders in the nation, are extremely concerned about the trajectory that the demonstrations have taken. In particular, the burning and looting of personal property, example, burning of a church and a mosque in Kibra, business losses, disruption of learning, when we are just about to regularize the calendar and the laws of lives. It appears very clearly that the goons have started to take advantage of the situation. For example, invasion of Northlands Farm and East Africa Spectre Limited, among others.
We are calling on restraint. We are also calling that the police should take action where loss of property or potential loss of property is seen. We are also calling on them to protect life.
We urge our political leaders to use and exhaust other available avenues and institutions for addressing governance challenges instead of demonstrations which could degenerate to anarchy.
Now, Karia supermarket in Dandora, Embakasi, is counting losses after goons broke into the premises and made away with goods of unknown value Monday night. According to the supermarket's management, the looters took advantage of opposition-led demonstrations to raid the premises. 7 suspects have been arrested in connection with the incident.
Karia supermarket in Nairobi, Dandora area. Repair works are ongoing after looters broke into supermarket last evening and made away with merchandise of unknown value.
Especially electronics. Na side za chakula pia waliharibu like everything. Unapata kila kitu iko disgusted. Hata kama zingine hawakubeba waliharibu, na zenye walibeba unapata hata zingine zimepasikia kwa.
According to CCTV footage, the looters are seen scrambling for commodities on display such as electronics and foodstuff.
Ipata already duka ishavunjwa au vilivyo mnavyoona, na mali mingi kama mnavyo pia shuhudia ilikuwa imeshabebwa.
The goons had taken advantage of Monday's street protests to raid the supermarket. Police, however, managed to stop the looting spree. Police are still looking for more suspects who appeared on the CCTV cameras looting the supermarket.
Moving on, Baringo County Assembly has passed a motion seeking social and financial protection for victims of banditry who are facing humanitarian crisis following the loss of livelihoods and property. The motion was sponsored by Bartabwa member of County Assembly David Sitoi, and if acted upon, will see victims get humanitarian aid, bursaries and affirmative employment.
Bartabwa, member of County Assembly David Sitoi, when moving his motion, said victims of cattle rustling in Baringo County are now impoverished while others have lost their breadwinners through killings during raids.
We have many children in the affected areas missing the opportunity to attend to their life in secondary school and in colleges. Because, Mr. Speaker, the sources of their livelihood has been taken away. The sources, the people who are supposed to pay for their school fees has been killed by bandits.
These bandits value cows than human beings, and we need to speak out. And we are really requesting our colleagues from DIAT, you speak the same language with these bandits. They listen to you. Kindly, if you are during recess or your free time or weekends, in your ward, try to reach out to these people.
Mukutani, member of County Assembly Paul Olgisoi, has urged the county and national governments to address the insecurity which has made a section of residents refugees.
What we are looking forward to is for us to realize as a county and as our leaders, we take a role and we take an action that will actually provide humanitarian aid. We set aside a bursary for these people, and we set fund for us to actually provide food material and even to resettle these people who are being affected.
This, as Marigat Ward MCA Nixon Lemlem called for the deployment of more national police reservists to supplement security.
We make sure NPR are in the victims area. Maximum NPR. That's a proposal. If they do want to follow the issue of NPRs, let allow us to license our people. We are ready to purchase. There is no need for me to put money, 25 million, in my ward, and then tomorrow someone is killed.
Four wards in the regions, namely Bartabwa, Mukutani, Mochongoi, and Saimosoi, are said to be the most affected by cattle rustling. Stephen Oinonyi, Lunchtime News.
From Baringo to Busia, where Governor Paul Otuoma has urged the county assembly to fast-track the legislation of the disaster management bill to facilitate emergency and disaster planning. The county boss says early preparations will help save lives, especially in flood-prone areas such as Bundalangi. Otuoma has, however, tasked the disaster multi-agency team to move with speed and plan ahead to avoid loss of lives and business interruptions.
Now that the rains are here with us, and we have been talking about this town reorganization, and we say we don't want to start seeing again floods People can't walk around, and we are aware that the problem is drainage. I want you to think quickly on what you're going to do about that. I know something is happening, but we want it done because the rains are here. If this town continues to look like this with all this reorganization, I've seen some trenches being done again next to the road, and last time they did them, so we need to be sure, and every time be reassured what is happening. In Budalani, tunakuwa na floods. But there are also those floods just because of lack of drenching. We could drench too, just the way you said you went to see a bridge somewhere, and you can predict that if the rains come, there will be a problem. I don't want us to continue working in the same way.
Health facilities that detain patients or bodies over delayed payments could soon be charged a fine of up to 1 million shillings if Parliament adopts the Health Amendment Bill 2023. The bill by Kirinyaga County Women Representative Njue also wants the national government to appropriate resources to the national referral hospitals as a reimbursement for any revenue lost.
Appearing before the National Assembly Budget and Appropriations Committee to defend the Health Amendment Bill 2023, proposer Kirinyaga County MP Njue argued the poor majority were facing challenges clearing hospital bills and penalties incurred when bodies are detained.
And we know that Africans have an attachment to their dead. We know that Africans are not people who will just, say now because we cannot pay the bill, let us leave the dead body in hospital.
The proposed law seeks to prohibit health facilities from detaining the bodies due to medical debt and instead seek reimbursement from the government. The bill proposes national government appropriates monies to national referral hospitals and conditional grants amounting to 50 million shillings to each county to cater for revenue loss at hospitals.
A hospital is like any other debtor. The only reason they get the advantage is that they are holding the dead body, or they are in control or in possession of a dead body. And they know very well the psychological attachment that Africans have to dead bodies. So they just take mere advantage of that fact, Chair, to ensure that they do not release the dead body to the family or to their kin to be laid to rest, and ensure that they milk that psychological torture as much as they can, because eventually they have to release the dead bodies. Because like I have said, Chair, dead bodies can never be security. They cannot be sold for money. They cannot be exchanged for money, Chair.
Meanwhile, the Budget and Appropriations Committee is considering a bill that seeks to change the operation of Commission for Revenue Allocation from full-time to part-time. Appearing before the Committee for Justification, the bill sponsor Kiminini MP Didmas Barasa said at least 465 million shillings of taxpayers' money will be saved every year if CRA commissioners sit on part-time basis.
Their role is not express. We also have IBEC that also plays a role in terms of how much revenue government share. We also have the Senate of the Republic of Kenya that also plays a role in terms of how much money government shares, and by even providing for formulas on how they will share. The question is, Honorable Chair, do you need to sit from Monday to Monday, from January to December to execute this function? The answer is no.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, has lost a battle in a graft case against 3 former land officers when a court in Mombasa dismissed 9 counts against them for lack of evidence. Former commissioners of lands Wilson Gashanja and Zablon Mabea and former senior officer at the Ministry of Lands Jabu Salim were set free after testimonies from 10 witnesses failed to convict them for abuse of office. Mombasa Chief Magistrate Martha Mutuku said the prosecution had failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt before the court their implication in the alleged sale of a public access road in Kwale to a private developer.
persons neglected their duty. It is a clear indication that even after the error was discovered, that the officers before court sought to correct the error by cancellation of the same. So I find that again, on count number 4, 5, and 6, the prosecution has not provided any evidence to establish a prima facie case against the first, second, and third accused persons, and count number 3, 4, 5, and 6 equally failed, and the accused persons are acquitted under section 210 of the CPC.
At about 27 minutes past 1, it's time for a break, but more news on the other side of the break.
To get Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 as your skiza tune, dial star 811 star 967 hash.
Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not in your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5 to 6.
To get Proverbs chapter 3 verse 5, dial star 811 star 967 hash. Star 811 star 967 hash.
Stingray. Uko sawa?
Siko sure niko ready.
Bravery is not the absence of fear, but action in the face of fear.
The Mozzart Bet Cup enters the round of 16 on the 1st and 2nd of April 2023. 11 top-tier teams, 3 National Super League sides, and 2 from FKF Division 1 side meet in the Clash of Titans. 2009 KPL champions Sofapaka will square it out with Darajani Gogo of Kibera from 1 p.m. on Saturday, the 1st of April 2023, before Kenya Police lock horns with Ulinzi Stars in an all-forces derby at 3 p.m. at the Kenyatta Stadium in Machakos. On Sunday, the 2nd of April 2023, Kariobangi Sharks will be up against Equity from 1 p.m. as they pave way for the clash between Premier League sides KCB and Bidco United at 3 p.m. at the Kasarani Annex. Catch all the actions live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1. Who will be the 2023 undisputed champion of the Mozzart Bet Cup and get the golden chance of representing Kenya in the CAF Confederation Cup tournament? KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. Moving on, Rongai Member of Parliament Paul Chebor has rolled out a 1,000 shillings per term school fees program in all-day secondary schools within his constituency. Rongai Constituency Development Fund Manager Moses Koril, who represented the MP at the launch of the program at Mema Mixed Secondary School, said 4,700 students will benefit from the program aimed at improving education standards in the constituency. Koril said the program, which will utilize about 15 million shillings from the NGCDF, will also revamp infrastructure in all the 200-day schools in his constituency and ease the burden of parents who are struggling to raise school fees for their children.
So we are here, we have come in for them.
And up to now, we have approximately 300 students whom we have already returned them back to school. They are now in class, they are proceeding with their education.
Poverty and low teacher to students ratio has been cited as a major challenge in implementing inclusive education for learners with disabilities at the Coast region. According to the recent reports from Pomozi for inclusive education in Southeast Africa, out of 99 special needs students mapped at the Coast region, there are only 212 trained teachers attending to over 5,000 learners with disabilities. The government and various non-governmental organizations have therefore embarked on efforts to provide quality, equitable and inclusive education for learners with disabilities as well as special education needs, but the gaps remain unaddressed.
The question really is, are we having implementation of the policies that are supposed to support these learners in school? Do we have enough teachers? And what are we doing about this?
A special educator's experience is poverty. Most of these children come from very, very poor backgrounds. Some of them cannot even afford transport to get to schools.
We also included our schools for persons living with disability and our special units. So it is not just focused on ICDs, but we've included our schools and our special units.
A lifelike mounting of the last male northern white rhino, Sudan, was handed over to the National Museums of Kenya for display to raise awareness on the need to conserve endangered wildlife species in the country. Sudan's taxidermy was returned to Kenya through a donation agreement with the Klovu Zoo in Czech Republic.
The last male rhino Sudan breathed his last breath 5 years ago here at Old Pejeta Conservancy in Laikipia County. The breed is facing extinction with only 2 surviving females who reside in Old Pejeta Conservancy and fortunately too old to reproduce. Scientists are hopeful that efforts to revive the breed through implantation of fertilized eggs in a southern white rhino are fruitful. As the efforts continue, what remains of Sudan will be displayed at the National Museums of Kenya to raise awareness of the plight of endangered species. The taxidermy returned to Kenya through a donation agreement with the Dvor Kralove Zoo in Czech Republic to raise awareness of the plight of endangered wildlife species.
So we were looking for a country where they could reproduce, but at that time, you know, in southern Sudan, the security situation was very bad, and we were looking for a stable country which has very well developed system of protecting wild animals, and so the choice fell on Kenya.
The Cabinet Secretary underscored Kenya's commitment to ensuring that endangered species are protected through the Kenya Wildlife Service. She called on global communities to join Kenya in promoting the wildlife heritage.
For us, it's a great honor. They would have even said, we keep it in our museum. But they found it worthy. And I can tell you this is what the bilaterals are doing. And it's not only this rhinoceros, Sudan, but I can tell you there's great willingness of our Western countries to bring back any item that belonged to Africa that was collected.
Malonza said the taxidermy not only serves as a prize from the Czech Republic government, but also a reminder to the government and partners that supporting the conservation of key species remain the top mandate. Sudan's legacy remains, and even in his death, he will still play ambassadorial role. And his taxidermy will lay in this National Museum captioned with an educational and an awareness message on the plight of this subspecies. Reporting for KBC Channel 1, I'm Alvin Kaunda.
In business, information, communication and the digital economy, CS Eliud Owalo believes that strengthening of capacity building efforts at the human capital development level is key in facilitating economic and social growth. Speaking in Nairobi during the 25th Senior Policy Seminar of the Africa Economic Research Consortium, Owalo said a local capacity should be strengthened to draft policies to regulate emerging trends such as blockchains, robotics, artificial intelligence, AI, and Internet of Things.
Human capital development in Africa is most relevant to Kenya and indeed to the rest of Africa. This is especially so in this age of migration to the digital space, where ICT is emerging as the grand driver of everything. As we reflect on human capital development, ladies and gentlemen, we will do well to place it in the context of the emerging new brave world of digital technology.
In order to take full advantage of these opportunities, countries need to invest and invest wisely in the productive potential of its youth. Better health, better education, better skills, or human capital.
As the researchers of the papers that will be presented and discussed during this seminar, they have researched diligently to generate evidence on the challenges of building human capital and accelerated inclusive development, as well as address key constraints on human capital accumulation.
Kenya is set to start exporting of avocados to India in June this year, offering market to produce that do not meet the stringent rules in Europe. Horticultural Crops Directorate Director Benjamin Tito says officials are finalizing the signing of key trade protocols which will pave way to drafting of export specifications of the avocados.
A market in EU, but it will be a marketable product in a different destination. And that's what I was talking of, being able to classify the different markets, and so that we meet the different requirements. For standards, that jumbo will not be required in EU as a standard. But in another market like the UAE and others, then it becomes a requirement for what may be needed. So basically, that's it. Thank you.
Elsewhere, the Kenya Revenue Authority hopes automation, enhanced monitoring and data sharing will help increase tax collections from gambling activities. KRA targets to collect 24 billion shillings from gambling activities, on boarding 38 betting and gaming firms on its system.
Tax collections on gambling activities have increased 5 times from 4 billion shillings in the 2017-2018 financial year to 21 billion shillings in the last financial year. Kenya Revenue Authority now targets to collect 24 billion shillings, which it says 15.8 billion shillings has so far been collected. So far, KRA has onboarded 16 companies involved in gambling activities and is targeting to have another 20 firms on its system next month.
We have partnered with those companies to integrate into the KRA system, so that that integration gives us visibility of the activities the taxpayer is doing on a daily basis.
KRA has told gambling firms to daily ensure they remit excise duty and withholding tax on winnings and share the data about betting and gaming transactions on real-time basis.
This is one sector which was very opaque, and that data was not available to us. We had to agonize to get that data from BCLB on a monthly basis. Now we are able to get that data, and especially for the 2 tax aids, on a daily basis.
More eyes on betting and gaming companies as the government pushes for tax remittance integration systems through the Kenya Revenue Authority to ensure that taxpayers comply with the required laws. Ndutamo Kami for Lunchtime News.
And still on government levies, the government is seeking public feedback from next month on the proposed investment promotion levy, which will see additional charges put on any imported goods that could be manufactured locally. The Ministry of Investment, Trade and Industry say if implemented, the policy will promote domestic industries and improve export growth from the current 6% to more than 25%.
To compete with cheaper imports. In addition, the ministry said
and across borders, Nigeria's outgoing government has recommended that the new administration of President-elect Bola Tinubu give public sector workers pay rises after removing a fuel subsidy in June. President Muhammadu Buhari, who stepped down in May, had planned to remove the popular but costly subsidy in 2022 as part of fiscal and premium sector reforms, but abandoned the plan because of fears of protest in the run-up to last month's election. Here are the details of this and other stories making headlines from across Africa.
Previous Nigerian governments have promised to remove the fuel subsidy, which most economists say is an unsustainable drag on public finances, but have failed to do so because of the fierce opposition from citizens. Many Nigerians regard cheap subsidized fuel as at least one benefit they receive from the states, which fails to deliver other basic services such as electricity and security despite receiving billions of dollars every year from oil exports. While the new government is not obliged to act on the recommendation, the call does put pressure on President-elect Bola Tinubu to fulfill his campaign promise to remove the subsidy, even though the outgoing administration itself failed to do so. Tinubu said in his manifesto that he would channel the money saved on the subsidy into agriculture, social welfare, road construction, public transport subsidies, education and healthcare. Elsewhere, a delegation comprising of 30 business people from South Africa are in Tanzania scouting for investment opportunities in the mining sector. The move comes after Tanzanian President Samia Suluhu Hassan's visit to South Africa to strengthen bilateral relationship and open up new investment opportunities. Tanzania's Commissioner of Minerals says the current contribution of the mining sector to the economy is 7.9%. Reports indicate that the growth in the mining sector increased to 7.3% last year from 4.8% recorded in 2018. Finally, Egypt has approved a new 5-year multiple entry visa at an amount of $700. Egypt's Ministry of Tourism has started implementing a new national strategy that focuses on improving the overall tourism experience, aviation and investment climate with the goal of achieving a 30% annual growth. Starting from September this year, there will be direct flights between Cairo and Sao Paulo.
Time to play. We begin with national soccer team Harambee Stars, who went down 2-1 to Iran in an international friendly match played last night in Tehran. Captain Michael Olunga put Kenya ahead in the 51st minute, but the hosts fought their way back and netted 2 goals in the 76th and 84th minute. The match was the first one for Harambee Stars since the ban imposed by FIFA in February 2022 was lifted last year. Iran is preparing for the 18th edition of the Asian Cup, scheduled to be held early next year. They participated in the FIFA World Cup in Qatar last year, where they exited in the group stage. Meanwhile, Harambee Stars will play a series of more friendly games after the sides were locked out of Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers. Spain suffered their first defeat in a Euro qualifying match since October 2014 after they were beaten 2-0 by Scotland. Meanwhile, Switzerland thrashed Israel 3-0 to top Group I on 6